report of the Seattle police activities right here as we're bringing it up. Peaceful immigration march earlier today. Now we see senseless violence, property destruction from a different crowd. And his thoughts are with the injured Seattle police officers. Two of them that we're hearing right now. One we have seen ourselves who appeared to be hit with some sort of rock or a chunk of concrete near his eye. When we saw him, it looked like it was above his eye. And here is Henry Rossoff again with some of the folks who were marching. Henry.
We are live now. Would you care to say what you're thinking as they kind of force you guys down fourth? Yes.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think as they kind of allow you to go down fourth? Do you think this is just kind of a wear you out type tactic?
Yeah, this is a very interesting moment. You know, all the way up to fucker right in the pussy.
That's what you get when you stick a mic in somebody's face on live television.
Yeah, we are.
And we can see some still have what would be considered a weapon. They may have a flag on the end of it, but as you mentioned, there are screws in the end used to break glass. So there are some still, whether they have the robe on or not, the black robe and the black face mask or whatever, they still are armed with something that could be considered a weapon. And so we will continue to keep a little bit of a distance from them. Again, we don't really need to hear what they have to say. They've already told us in no uncertain terms what they think. We find Gary Horker now perhaps a little more at the back of this parade. Gary?
4th and Lander, you see a live picture of one of the protesters who I believe took off all the black clothing that he was wearing, and now he's on top of the bus shelter. 4th Avenue South and South Lander, to give you an exact location. And again, they are completely containing what's now a fragmented protest. There is still banners up in the front of this protest being held by some of the anarchists who have not taken off some of their gear. But a lot of these people are dressed in plain clothes now. It's clear that they took off a lot of their black clothing so as not to be identified in video after throwing things like rocks and bottles and Molotov cocktails. And on at least one occasion, we saw a protester throwing full cans of ravioli that were exploding when they were hitting the bricks on the other side of the police. Throwing that at a police line. So, you know, right now, I've covered this for 5 years, but it's very, very hard to predict exactly where this is going to end, because at some point, all these people are going to be running out of gas. We see it every year where you kind of look at your watch and you say, you know, it's 4 hours and 58 minutes into their 5-hour energy, and this thing's going to fizzle out. We're going to be done. But the direction of travel here is unprecedented. So we don't know, right now, I don't know if they know it or not, but they have no freedom. This is the only street that they're able to traverse southbound. All the other streets are blocked. So we're gonna give you play-by-play, of course, but we haven't seen any arrests probably within the last 15 minutes, no flashbangs, and this procession is moving south at a pretty good clip. Back to you.
All right, Gary, and we expect that the police will probably outlast this group as they continue to move south. This at 4th and Lander, right in that neighborhood in SoDo. Many of you know it. Many of you probably work in that area and are glad that it's a Sunday evening and you're not there right now. Some of the protesters, again, on bikes, others on foot. And this, we go back to what happened earlier tonight. One of the police officers hit in the face with what appeared to be a rock or a chunk of concrete and sustaining a severe injury to his eye, his left eye, or just above it. And he received treatment, we expect. It was at Harborview Medical Center, but he was attended to there by one of his fellow police officers. So again, this all happening probably well over an hour ago now, maybe 90 minutes ago, or even longer than that. And once the bricks and the bottles and the broken pieces of concrete started flying and the windows, several of them were broken, police really moved in seriously. There was the broken glass, with those small explosive devices, flashbangs that they would roll right into the middle of the crowd and get those protesters on the move.
You were talking just a little bit ago, Steve, about the remarkable restraint that we had seen, but then the flip side of that also was, like in these instances, as soon as something happened that provoked a police response, like when they issued that order of dispersal. That is their legal order to a crowd after they have assessed that there is some sort of risk to public safety. Once they ordered that, then they knew exactly what they could do. That included these flashbang grenades, this direction of the crowd, this ordering of the crowd to move along in very specific directions so that they could get control of them. We also heard that police commanders told the forces to pick up any weapons that they saw along the way. We assume that that will be used for any sort of prosecution in the future because they do not intend to let today be the end of it. They have looked in past years when they have had confrontations like we are seeing right here. Chopper 7 recorded this probably 45 minutes ago, that people, when they were arrested, would be charged, but then nothing else would happen. They certainly went back and reviewed their policies and procedures to make sure that they have everything that they need to prosecute the people they are arresting this time around.
Seattle police deciding very early on that they were not going to allow these demonstrators to stay in the downtown core for any length of time. They were going to try to get them on the move. Of course, the further into the core of downtown, the shopping district, so many high-rise condominiums that are in the area there. And as soon as they had an opportunity to continue to move them south, they refused to let them turn corners. As you see there, the protesters tried to turn into a line of police and they were immediately pepper sprayed and pushed back. The police continued to move them south, first on 2nd Avenue and then on 4th Avenue, all the way through Soto, past the stadiums, and now they're past South Lander Street and Forest Street, South Forest, to the south with the sun going down in the background. It's quite the sight. From one of our cameras moving southbound. But again, these pictures from about 90 minutes ago as police continued to block the way of the protesters who were trying to take some sort of advantage there in the core of downtown Seattle, and they were not, the police that is, were not hearing of it.
Yeah, much more conflict from these 45 minutes ago, and quite frankly, much more energy on the side of the protesters 45 minutes ago, where when we take our live shots, when we see them heading south even of Soto, people are walking slowly. But as we continue to watch this video that was taken from, looks like Westlake Park right there, you can see that Starbucks right in the middle of your screen there, where we know there was at least one window broken. Lots of people showing up in this black garb that has since been shed along the side of the roads as people try to just blend right on back in.
You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone wearing one of those black robes now. In fact, here is our live picture once again, heading southbound on 4th Street, 4th Avenue South in Soto. And the marchers now more along the lines of what one would consider a relatively peaceful march. Yes, holding their banner. Yes, with their megaphone being heard. But again, moving southbound, and no further arrests, at least on this move south, that we have seen.
And they have been outflanked by police officers really all day. Also at the front of the crowd is Cairo 7's Rob Munoz, who was waiting for them to come up to you there in Capitol Hill, Rob, and you had to change your plan as well. You are now south of Soto. What are you seeing down there?
Yeah, we're at 4th and Horton, Monique, and I'll tell you, at Capitol Hill, it is just another nice Sunday. But as you see here, this is Seattle Fire Station 14 that they're coming up on. And I'll tell you what, if they have a message and they're trying to deliver to a lot of people down here in Soto, they do not have that audience that they're hoping to get. And otherwise, I mean, just the TV cameras here following them, and as they see us and start pointing us out here, a lot of them look pretty petered and tired out from when we first saw them. But something else we can also tell you, though, is that we saw a lot of these people coming down from Capitol Hill, so eventually they will have to make their way back up. That will also probably make for another interesting situation coming up here later tonight, and I imagine our other crews here are pretty tired. But right now, you know, just people yelling at us, random things, can't exactly hear what they're saying. But as they're marching down here, some of these people on their phones probably trying to gauge what their next move is. But as they slowly march down here, they're coming up to the West Seattle Bridge, and not a lot quite going on here as they are yelling, as we've seen a lot more, and Seattle police are flanking them right now here at 4th and Horton.
Well, if there were, Rob, any thoughts of perhaps trying to make a run for this West Seattle Bridge, in which case it would take you one of two directions, eastbound, you'd head back toward Interstate 5. Westbound, you'd head toward West Seattle. My guess is police are certainly manning any of those on-ramps and off-ramps just to make sure that nobody decides that they want to take a little stroll up there and try to disrupt traffic, which, by the way, we should mention has already been disrupted quite enough with the closure of Highway 99. And be sure you tune in to us first thing tomorrow morning beginning at 4 a.m. I'll give a little plug for the early guys because it's going to be a mess out there in the morning as 99 will continue to be closed for the next at least week, probably closer to 2 weeks. That will all be followed tonight on Cairo 7 News at 11. Meantime, we're following these demonstrators as they continue to move southbound on 4th Avenue South through Sodo. And again, West Seattle Bridge coming up. Eventually, I suppose you start to run toward the 1st Avenue South Bridge. If you keep going, you run headlong into the Georgetown neighborhood and eventually Boeing Field. I don't know if we have time.
Eventually Olympia.
I don't think there's enough stamina on the part of this group to stay up with that. But again, as we have reached almost 8:15 here on this Sunday evening, along with Monique Minglavin, I'm Steve Rabel. We've been on the air now since 6 o'clock, intending to bring you the news of the day, and instead this is the news of the day. Breaking news, this demonstration, as happens it seems now every May Day here in Seattle, what turns from peaceful marches in the afternoon to demonstrations and breaking windows by self-proclaimed anarchists in the evening.
Yes, but this year does look very different, doesn't it? As in years past, we have seen these crowds get out there and it takes a little while for them to heat up and then some of the destruction begins. Well, this year, boy, it was maybe 10 minutes before police said, we're taking control of this. And they certainly did. They started funneling those crowds exactly where they wanted them to go, You can see on the left of your screen right there. In South Seattle right now, Cairo 7's Henry Rossoff is there. And Henry, I'm sure you're tired at this point as well, but these folks are starting to drag a bit.
Yeah, certainly a lot of sweating going on, a lot of removing of some of the black layers. That's not everyone, as you can see right in front of us. 2 people still fully clad, and this group kind of strung out and spread out right here as we continue to move south along 4th Avenue. I'd be remiss if I say what I'm doing right now is giving you that constant ground angle, streaming that through our Facebook account. So that's kind of what I'm up to now, just so you can keep track of that ground angle, you know, as long as you want to. But what we're seeing out here is just kind of a long, slow march down 4th Avenue, as you can now see the backdrop of downtown in the back, and that's not a view that we've seen in years past. And really the question on everyone's mind, including the protesters, as I speak to a few of them, is what's the end game here? When will police say no more, or will it be on them to disperse? And that's the question we are watching and waiting to have answered for you guys. We'll send it back to the studio.
All right, Henry, thank you. My money is on the police hanging in there longer than the protesters do. And in fact, our Rob Munoz has seen some of the protesters who have kind of said, you know, I think we've had enough. Let's go home. Let's celebrate whatever it is that they're going to celebrate. Rob?
Yeah, you have a lot of these people out here saying, drink your water, but you also see people here, obviously, looks like they're giving up for the day, heading on home. Not exactly sure where they're going right now, but Seattle police are trailing them, and some of them are starting to peel off here as they're tired of the entire march here pushing down into Sodo. This probably was not exactly what they had planned in mind, and definitely looks like they're just heading on home. In fact, we've got one gentleman right here. Do you want to talk to us, or are you gonna? No. Oh, wait, what are you guys going home? What's the plan now?
What? Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Why is it that you think I'm part of you guys? Just because I have my face covered?
Are you part of it?
Part of what? Define
Okay,
that.
all right, thank you very much. But it looks like a lot of people, again, are starting to head home as it starts to head to the West Seattle Bridge. Back to you guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Rob, as you continue to stay out there with those crowds. Lots of unanswered questions at this point as far as the number of arrests. So far, we are hearing from SPD 4 arrests and then also 2 officer injuries. We're certainly hoping those were not serious injuries. We're waiting to hear from that. Our crews remain devoted to getting the very latest on that.
And in fact, if anything breaks throughout the course of the evening, we will continue to follow it. Our reporters are not coming home just because we are going to be moving away from this live coverage here on Cairo 7. They will continue to follow along just to make sure that the last of the demonstrators are finally moved into the direction that the police want them to and finally do disperse and head back whence they came. Meantime, police will then recycle back into downtown, and I'm sure they will sit down, take a look, and say, you know, this was, considering what's happened in the past, a pretty successful way of handling this May Day demonstration here in Seattle in 2016.
And absolutely, I think that there are a lot of people up on Capitol Hill right now.
Yes, thanking their
saying,
lucky
thank
stars.
you. Yes, thank you that we didn't have to see our neighborhood involved in all of this. But again, all the Cairo 7 crews out there right now getting you the very latest information, putting all of that together for